Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to give you guys an update on my Venus Flytrap here. As you can see, it's grown quite a lot since the last video. It's got a lot of new traps. Some of them are really quite big, as you can see by these couple right here. So I've had it this year inside the house. Last year I had it out on the balcony, but summers here are just too cold, and in Scotland it didn't really put any growth on. It comes from America, and America tends to get very hot summers where this is from. This does actually live somewhere where it gets frost in the wild, so I do keep this out on the balcony in winter. But the summer and winter temperatures are such a little difference here in Scotland that to grow well I really had to grow it inside, and then I put it outside for the winter for the nice cold period for it. So it's growing well now. It's early July. It's put on a lot of growth. You can see a lot of big traps. I've been feeding it spiders, which it hasn't been too happy with. You can see the two traps that I fed it with spiders have actually died off. And there's another one down here as well. These three died off, so it's not too happy with the spiders. I'm not sure what that is. I thought spiders would be okay, but I did actually feed it itself. There was a hoverfly that must have got into the flat when the windows were open, and you can see the remnants of one there. It's just starting to come out of the trap because the trap's now opened. But that was, as I say, one that kind of flew in by itself. I didn't feed it a hoverfly, and it's quite enjoyed the hoverfly. It hasn't killed off the trap or anything. The trap's still quite healthy. So it did put out a lot of flower buds this spring. You can see one of the flower stalks there. I think it put out about 2 or 3 stalks, just kept nipping them off to make sure that all the energy went into the traps. I mean, if I did want to grow them from seed, then I would have left it, but I wasn't particularly looking to grow it anymore from seed. I just don't really have the space for any more Venus flytraps, so I just nipped it off to encourage more growth of the traps. The only other thing I've noticed with my Venus flytrap this year is a lot of the traps are a bit deformed. I don't know why. The main central rosette is fine, but there's a second rosette here and a little one in the corner, which you can't really see because it's covered by the leaves of the central rosette. But these have all come through a bit deformed. I'm not too sure why that is. You can see here another trap which has fed itself. So there's obviously a few flies getting in when I have the windows open during the day. And just kind of feeding itself. I haven't really needed to feed it too much this year, apart from those 3 spiders that I did earlier. So I'll just keep it on the windowsill. I might rotate it. As you can see, the sun's kind of been on this side, so everything's going that direction. So I just need to rotate it so that it straightens up now. It doesn't go a bit nice to have a nice straight looking appearance. And I'll probably need to remove a few of the traps later on because some of them are starting to die off. But certainly it hasn't lost many traps this year. Last year it didn't seem to grow much, had a lot of dead traps. This year, I say it's grown a lot and the traps haven't really died off. And it seems quite healthy. It's got, as you can see, a fresh root there. There's a little bit of white. That's now in focus. You can see there's little white tips to the end of the roots, so the roots are quite healthy, starting to grow out the bottom. What I tend to do is I give this distilled water. I get my distilled water from a dehumidifier that I have running in my flat to keep the humidity down. I watered this so that the bottom's wet, and I flood the bottom. I water it from the top, and the bottom saucer gets completely flooded. Stayed flooded for 2 or 3 days, and then I let it dry out the bottom of the saucer. And then about 2 or 3 days after the bottom of the saucer's dried out, I then give it some more water. So it never gets completely dry. The soil is always wet, but I do let it dry out a little bit so it's not constantly sodden, so it's not constantly water sitting in the bottom. And Venus flytraps do like to always be wet, but they don't like to be sitting in stagnant water for days or weeks at a time. And it seems to work quite well this year like that. So I'll give you guys an update in a few weeks' time, maybe a couple of months at the end of summer. Hopefully it'll have continued to grow, get even maybe some larger traps. We'll see how it does. I would like to get some more Venus flytraps. I've been pondering getting some giant ones because you can get some where the trap's about 2 or 3 times the size of these. But I still need to think about space in my balcony and my flat, because obviously getting big plants, there's not going to be space for them. But that's it for now for my Venus flytrap, and as I say, I'll give you guys an update towards the end of summer.